Our oceans sustain life. An abundant ocean can feed 1 billion people a healthy meal every day forever. But now they are being killed by throwaway plastics. The equivalent of 1 garbage truck of plastic is dumped in the sea every minute. 17.6 billion pounds every year. Plastic is everywhere in our ocean, floating on the surface, mixing in the salt water, and sitting on the ocean bottom, miles and miles deep. And once in the ocean, it never goes away. Over hundreds of years, it breaks down into small pieces. But those pieces, even the tiny ones called microplastics, are still plastic. Sea turtles are choking on it. Scientists say that over 60% of whale and dolphin species are affected by it. Zooplankton, the base of the ocean food chain, eat it. And so do we. It's in the water we drink. It's in our food. Microplastics have been found in our salt, our honey, and our beer. And sometimes even in the air we breathe. Companies are choosing to make something that will be used just once, from a material that lasts forever. If you don't like what throwaway plastics are already doing to our world, brace yourself. We face a tsunami of throwaway plastic in our and the ocean's future. 4 times more plastic will be produced between now and the middle of the century than has been produced in all of history. 4 times more. What can we do? Recycling? Of all the plastic ever generated as of 2015, only 9% was recycled. Even when it is recycled, plastic degrades. Your plastic soda bottle maybe becomes a shampoo bottle, then a floor mat. Even in the best case, it doesn't recycle, it downcycles. And then it becomes pollution that ruins our beaches and chokes sea animals forever. We should not be forced to pollute the ocean every time we eat, drink, or go shopping. We need to be given a choice, a plastic-free choice. This is not hard to imagine. Indeed, some responsible companies are already leading the way. There are throwaway plastic-free aisles in supermarkets. Beverage companies already offer plastic-free soda and salsa water. Restaurants offer plastic-free service. There are plastic-free rooms in hotels. An airline is now offering a plastic-free flight. And Oceania and our allies are winning plastic-free victories. Following campaigning by Oceania, Peru passed a law that keeps plastic out of national parks and beaches. Belize is getting rid of styrofoam. And the European Union has mandated reductions for throwaway plastic throughout its 28 member countries. But with your help, we can do more. Together, we can create a movement to reduce throwaway plastic. We can make sure we're all given real plastic-free choices. We can help our cities, towns, schools, and workplaces establish zones that are free of throwaway plastic. Let's stop plastic pollution from wrecking our beaches and our oceans, and have healthy oceans that delight and sustain us for generations to come. Please join our campaign. Go to oceana.org/plastics today.
Well, hey there, everybody. Peter Eisler here, and welcome to Inside Sailing. I'm ready to join up. How about you? I mean, it's kind of like watching the Titanic or something when you face the realities of our planet and living on the planet with so many people, but there's always a bright light, and tonight's show is about a bright light and something we can all do as sailors. So Welcome to Inside Sailing, middle of July. I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I know a lot of opportunities and things you could be doing on a summertime afternoon. I'm in a different location. If you've been tracking me ever since the start of what was called Web Wednesdays and now Inside Sailing, I've been in San Diego, but here now I am in Michigan, on the shores of Lake Michigan, way up north in a town called Harbor Springs. And I just sailed on a boat for the first time since lockdown, delivered it all the way 200 miles up the length of Lake Michigan. And it was just a delight to get back out on the water. And looking forward to doing some racing up here. For those of you that have been out on the boats recently, lucky you, this American Sailing Association is all about sailing. I'm one of the people that were around in the early days of the ASA, and I'm very, very proud of what the ASA has done, providing a foundation and educational system that schools all over the U.S., indeed all over the planet, use, instructors use in order to bring sailors along in their education in sailing. And part of the education in sailing, of course, is doing our part socially. And one of the great things about falling in love with the sport is you do also get a little closer connection with nature, don't you, when you get out on a boat? The cell phones are gone, they're silenced, they're muted, they're all the rest, but it's so nice to just get out there on the water, and we appreciate and touch nature maybe a little bit closer than a lot of our friends do, get a chance to do. And we are the lucky ones. And tonight, I would like to introduce you to two people who are doing a lot on the side, an amazing amount, and have for many years on the side of taking care of the sea from a sailor's perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guests tonight, Shelly Brown, Director of Sailors for the Sea and founder of Sailors for the Sea, co-founder David Rockefeller. Hey, guys.
Hey, Peter.
Hi.
Welcome. Okay, so let's establish location. Shelly, you are where?
In Newport, Rhode Island.
Nice. Did you go sailing today?
No, unfortunately I didn't. But I drove over the bridge this past weekend, and it was so wonderful to see so many boats on the water.
Yeah. And David?
Yes, I'm in Seal Harbor, Maine, on Mount Desert Island. And yes, I did go sailing today. We had 2 races in the International One Design class. So I had a good day on the water.
Oh, the good old IODs. You know, there's a boat up here in Harbor Springs. It looks a lot like an IOD, and it's sort of that same era. I think it's called a LM or Lake Michigan class or something, but very similar, classic design. Apparently they have some good racing here.
Wonderful.
All right, so we have a great show for you today, telling the story of the Foundation Sailors for the Sea, and that Shelly directs and David co-founded. So without further ado, I'm going to make the big step that we're all getting really good at in our lockdown life, which is sharing our screen. And David, tell us a bit about your background as a sailor. I know you went sailing today, but that's not today.
Yeah, well, it started, Peter, with my parents, who were really cruisers, coastal cruisers, and they opened me up to the wonders of cruising on the coast of Maine in particular, which is so beautiful, so many islands, and the good times they had with their friends. I often ended up in an upper bunk of their Bermuda 40, which was a boat they had a long time, and listened to what adults say when they're on boats, which is pretty fascinating. And of course, I probably say those same things and tell those same jokes today, but it was a wonderful way to get started.
And I believe that this is the beautiful IOD that you were sailing today. Look at that.
Yeah, that's true. She's called Caribou, and for Caribou, Maine, and our love of the North. And we've got a pretty good breeze. I think we're in Somme Sound, which is the only fjord on the east coast of the U.S., and it's right around the corner.
What's the water temperature like there right now?
Most of us would not want to be swimming in it, and we don't want to fall in it either. Yeah, there we are, matched up with two other boats and trying to pin them to the left. So yeah, we're very, very lucky, and to have boats this beautiful. My boat, Caribou, I think was delivered to Maine in 1938, and she's still holding together.
Wow. That's and you've got some
Here we
sailor
are.
friends there.
Yeah, here we are at Cape Horn with Mark Schrader, captain of Ocean Watch, and David Treadway, the co-founder of Sailors for the Sea, and Ned Cabot, a great friend who, alas, lost his life, ironically, in the Cabot Strait off of Newfoundland. Wasn't strapped in, and a rogue wave rolled the boat, and he went out and wasn't found. But all these are great guys, and we were at Cape Horn at this moment. I was on a 2-week trip around the Cape. We went, as you know, Peter, the wrong way, which is east to west, but we managed to get there.
Anyways, a good way. I've been to Cape Horn twice, and it's one of the most special places. You think about its significance as a sailor, it really is a power spot for sailors, and that great monument they have up on Horn Island of the Albatross in memory of all the sailors who have lost their lives at the sea. A special place indeed. Shelly, tell us about your early days sailing. Here we go. You are a sailor too.
Definitely. Yeah, so I grew up right on the shores of Narragansett Bay, Rhode Island, and I remember one of the first boats that my parents had was a baby blue Pearson Triton, and we spent many summer days sailing around the bay. And we would also make trips up to or down to Long Island Sound and all the way up to the Maine coast. And one of my fondest memories of sailing is when we're sailing up in Maine. I remember looking behind the boat, and I see that we're trailing a lot of lobster pots behind us. And my dad, who loves sailing but hates cold water, gets in the dinghy, gets his wetsuit on, gets in the dinghy, and is trying to lift off the line. And these two pilot whales come flying out of the water to see what's going on. And I've never seen my dad jump so fast back into the boat. But there's always, I have so many fond memories of sailing, and it's always an adventure. Yeah.
I love that life jacket. Minnie's looking good there, hiding it with the Pringles.
Yep, definitely. And so now I still sail with my family whenever I can. So my parents have a yawl. This is an Alberg 37. And, as you said, Peter, in the beginning, my favorite part of sailing is being right out in nature. It's an amazing experience. You get to see the wildlife. You get to have the wind in your hair. It's just an unbelievable experience, and we're so lucky to be able to do that. Yeah. So this picture. So, while we're sailing, like many other boaters, I see a lot of this destruction that's happening to our waters. You might see plastic balloons or bags, or maybe, runoff from water. And I really wanted to learn more about the issues, the impact of humans on our waters. So I started my PhD, and this is a picture of me collecting samples. And it was to study how humans impact our coastal ecosystems. And what I thought was really interesting during my PhD is that a lot of scientists are doing groundbreaking research, really have exciting findings, but the information doesn't necessarily get to the public. So, and I thought if we want the public to make a difference to save our oceans, we really need to have them understand the problems. So once I finished my degree here, I wanted to bridge the gap between the science world and the public, and be a part of a science-based organization that was engaging and activating our communities, which has led me here today.
All right, that looks like fun. Looks like something you would have liked to have done in the previous picture.
Yeah.
David, how did you get involved with ocean conservation and eventually starting Sailors for the Sea?
Yeah, Peter, I think it began, as it does for many people, with my love of the land and the natural environment on land. My mother was a farmer and a cattlewoman. I got involved with national parks, and for a while was the citizen chair of the National Park Foundation, and saw probably 50 of the great parks. And then lucky enough to go to Africa, such a different set of environments on safari, and appreciate wild animals and the habitat that they needed to stay healthy in. And I finally began to put the two things together. I loved the ocean, but I didn't know that much, Peter, about what the condition of the ocean was. And I began reading about its problems, and I was recruited to join the Pew Oceans Commission in the year 2000. It was a US-based commission that studied the condition of both the lakes and the oceans in the US territory. And it took 3 years. It was a wonderful group of people, about 15 of us as commissioners, and we took testimony from people all over the country. And it just opened my eyes to the problems in the oceans. And we wrote a report. I was one of the writers of the report. And so in 2003, we came public. There was another report done by the federal government the same year, pretty much said the same thing. And that got me started. And at the end of that time, you serve on a commission, that's fine. You learn a lot, which is good. And then you say goodbye to your commissioners. And the question is, what do you do? What are you going to do about this problem that you now know about? And it relates to the place you love, which is the ocean. What are you going to do? And a year later, I founded Sailors for the Sea.
All right. And it was based, I believe, in New England, right? Was it always in Newport, Rhode Island as a home base?
We actually started in Boston, where I was living at the time. And I put together a board of directors of sailing friends of mine, David Treadway being the co-founder and a great solo sailor, actually. And we got started, and we love to meet, luckily, as good friends, and talk about both the joys and the problems of the oceans. And a few years later, we hired our first leader, and who decided that Boston wasn't as good a location as Newport, Rhode Island, and he was right. And we moved there, and luckily we're able to hire some people of the quality of Shelly to run the organization.
Get that mud off of her hands.
Gotta wash before she comes to work.
Yeah. Shelly, what Sailors for the Sea, now we're kind of jumping forward a number of years. You didn't come in at inception, but it hit my radar. What, David, you said 2004 or so was the starting point?
Yeah,
so we're,
yeah.
Maybe a decade ago, and obviously the name is great, and the whole idea that, those of us that are environmentally inclined to think that, okay, our little universe of sailors has an impact and can do things too was a cool idea. And now Shelly's in charge of helping to implement what sort of cool ideas can be reality. So what are some of the things that Sailors for the Sea do with groups like yacht clubs and sailing clubs?
Definitely. So Clean Regattas was one of Sailors for the Sea's first programs. It was launched in, I think, 2006 with just a handful of events, I think, that were in Maine and in Boston. And now we work with events, I think about over 500 events a year across the globe, which is really exciting. But the Clean Regattas program is a sustainability certification for any water-based event. We give you a sustainability framework and the support needed to decrease the environmental impact of your event, with the hopes that it's going to have a lasting impact on the community. So the program right now consists of 20 different best practices that fall under 5 overarching sustainability themes. So for example, there's elimination of single-use plastics. So that is limiting water bottles, providing water refill stations so people can fill up their reusable water bottles, serving food on plastic-free dinnerware. Another best practice is encouraging water-only washdowns so that we're not putting toxic chemicals into the water. So we have 20 different best practices, and events can achieve different levels of certification based on how many best practices they're able to achieve. And I think what's one of the most exciting things is that, or the great things about the Clean Regattas program is that any type of event can join. So you could have a small youth regatta on a lake, to Monday night racing, that's a fun race, to a professional offshore racing. And they can all, take this sustainability framework and make use of it. So over the years, we've worked with a number of passionate people and events, and there's too many to share, but I did want to highlight a few. Here we have pictured, this is the Vineyard Cup hosted by Sail Martha's Vineyard, and they're a veteran of the Clean Regatta program. I think they've been with Sailors for the Sea since 2010. And their event's located on an island. So, it was really important to them that they wanted to have the food locally sourced and have zero waste. So that's to help reduce their carbon footprint and their impact on their waters. So for all of their meals, they worked with local fishers and farms to source the food. And they also worked with farms to compost the food scraps after. For all their post-racing dinners, they used actual real plates, utensils, glasses, and napkins, and even have those little hay straws for the drinks, so you can still use your straw. And they always recruit youth sailors to be the green team. So these youth sailors will come and help you sort your waste so everything goes into the right stream. And 6 or 7 years ago, after the event, the 3-day event, they'd have nearly 5 tons of trash that would go to the landfill. And so since they started committing to go to locally sourced and zero waste, this is what the waste is after the 3-day event. It all fits into one small cardboard box. And it's the plastic bags for ice. So that's the one substitution they couldn't find something for. So it's it's very inspiring that they were able to have less of an impact on the environment with this event.
I guess you probably learn with the different groups, the regattas, and help refine the protocols as you move along, eh?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we actually just revamped the Clean Regattas program this January. So we had 25 best practices, and we limited it to 20. And it makes it easier for more events to participate. So we have the highest impact sustainability initiatives that people can be a part of. And this event here is the Youth Sailing World Cup. This was hosted in 2018 by Corpus Christi Yacht Club in Texas. And we had a Clean Regatta organizer come to us, I think, a year and a half out, and she wanted to make everything as sustainable as possible. So they really looked at everything from the plastic zip ties. They have reusable ones here. They made sure that they could get water to the kids. There was 400 sailors, and so a challenge is getting water to the participants, and they were able to do that in hot summer Texas weather. They worked with an industrial composting company to get rid of all the food scraps. So it's really exciting to see this. And now their event has become the benchmark for all other world sailing events to follow in the future.
Wow.
And here is Antigua Sailing Week. And this is a really great example of a singular event having an impact on a community, so having a lasting legacy. Several years ago, the organizers went to all the hotels and restaurants where the event was hosted and said that we need to eliminate single-use plastic straws, only provide them when asked. And this initiative was so successful that it started going island-wide. And so a lot of restaurants and hotels across Antigua starting implementing this policy. And now Antigua is also working on long-term initiatives with the marine industry there, which will be very exciting to see in the future.
Well, that's great. When that warms your heart to know that we sailors can have an impact outside of our own community. Right there, there's a good example.
Definitely. And finally, this is an event. So this is not a competitive racing event. Here you can see someone picking up a balloon. We work with Eastport Yacht Club in Annapolis for many years, and they just hosted last month this trash fishing tournament. And so it was a clean regatta. They got people to go out and collect different items, and they awarded different prizes depending on what you could find in the environment. So, there's all different styles of events that can participate in the Clean Regattas program and make a difference.
Nice. I guess to win a trash fishing competition, you really need to think about your equipment. I mean, the size of the net, how long it is, how light it is, so you can get that good reach. David says, go ahead.
Oh, so they even suggested bringing magnets to find things in the water.
David, what have you seen in the sailing community? It must be pretty satisfying to see the effect that Sailors for the Sea has had, even in just this one program over the years.
Well, it really is, and one of the most amazing connections that we had was with the America's Cup. You know something about, Peter, when it had that fantastic series in San Francisco with a big American comeback that was so great. And so the America's Cup was a clean regatta at that time, and we had a lot of visibility with that cup set of cup races, and it was really extraordinary. So that was one of the high points, I would say. But I think the important thing is not just that this is about fancy sailors at the top end of their game. It's about all of us who love the sea and who can do something about it. And I think something important to remind sailors, or for us to say about sailors, is sailors here are not the problem, but they can be part of the solution. Because of our love of the sea, anything that you love, you tend to want to protect. And that's one reason why we targeted the sailing community when we were founding Sailors for the Sea, which, as you suspected from that beautiful opening video with Sam Waterston moderating, we are now part of Oceana. And so that's the connection. We decided that we couldn't grow as well on our own. We were a small organization for the dozen years that we operated solo, a little more, maybe 15. And so we joined up 3 years ago with Oceana, and that's giving us a lot more energy and reach.
That's great. And it's not just, as you say, it's just not the top end of the Grand Prix racers. I mean, sailing clubs in the island of Antigua, obviously the locals got involved, and we sailors come in all sizes and shapes, and the best ones to get to start out with the message and can carry the ball are the younger ones. Shelly?
Yeah. So we also have a kids education program called Kelp, which stands for Kids Environmental Lesson Plans. And this program was originally created for sailing instructors to use on no wind or rainy days. So instead of plugging in a movie or playing Boat Jeopardy for the umpteenth time, we have all these activities for kids to learn about the ocean. So we have 50 different lesson plans. They all use very simple materials. So here is Salty Ocean, where it's just salt, water, and food coloring. And kids can learn about all different topics like plastic pollution, overfishing, all different types of things.
How widespread is the Kelp program?
So it has been used in all 50 states and I think in 76 countries. And so it's not just used by sailing instructors, it's also been used by schools and aquariums, really just to help kids understand the ocean. So here is working with two different groups. On the left is with Sail Newport. So they started a new education program where they're trying to get every fourth grader in Newport to learn how to sail and also learn about, their backyard near Narragansett Bay. So we've helped provide some kelp activities for them to learn about the ocean. So here they made a net to collect plankton in the ocean to see the little tiny creatures. And then on the right side is the Atlantic Cup. So they're an offshore race that sails from Charleston, South Carolina to New York City and then up to Portland, Maine. And we've gone to the different stopovers, they bring students to meet the skippers, learn about sailing in the boats. And then we've also run some of our Kelp activities with these kids as well. And unfortunately this year the race was canceled due to COVID, but we've had a great partnership in the past.
That's great.
Yeah. And I think one of the really exciting things about the Kelp program is that it helps kids learn about what's happening under their hulls. So when they learn about the ocean, they want to become good stewards for the ocean. So that's really helpful. And this is a great picture. We went to Chicago Yacht Club. It was before the race to Mackinac, and they had their own green race, or their own race. And one of the challenges was to collect trash in the water, and they got a green award if they collected the most trash. So the kids forgot about the racing, and they were all trying to find different items in the water, which was really cool to see.
That's great. Yeah, I did the Transpac race, Los Angeles to Hawaii. I've done it many times in my life, but the most recent one, I was just amazed at how much more plastic there was in the ocean. Usually after about a day, you get outside of sort of the coastal effect, and the water's clear all the way to you're within 100 miles or so of the Hawaiian Islands. But nowadays it's a different ocean out there. Speaking of which, when I went to invite David and Sailors for the Sea to come and be part of Inside Sailing, I went to the website and found Oceana here. David, give us a little background.
Yeah, well, Oceana was founded actually as an outgrowth of the Pew Oceans Commission. It was one of the things that was officially the result of the commission study, and the Pew Charitable Trusts were an initial large funder of Oceana. So, and it collaborated with something I think called the American Oceans Campaign that Ted Danson, the well-known actor, had founded. And so Ted now is on our board, actually, along with Sam Waterston and other wonderful people. I joined the board 3 years ago after our deal joining Sailors for the Sea up into Oceana as a program of it. My wife Susan was already on the board and helped us with that negotiation. So Oceana is global, has about 240 staff members all over the world. The base operation is in Washington, D.C., but they're really involved in all of the continents of the world, with offices in at least a dozen other places. And there they are campaign-driven organization that sets up in any given country to solve a particular problem. Plastics is not the only problem. Overfishing is another. Industrial pollution, et cetera, et cetera. And so Oceana comes in, figures out what the problems are in that country, collaborates with local NGOs and other leaders who have similar interests to protect their wonderful and abundant waters. And they go on a 3 to 5 year plan to solve that problem. And we've solved many of them. I'm very proud of my relationship with Oceana.
So Sailors for the Sea benefits with more horsepower and wider reach, and it's all good, right?
Well, it is. And for example, although Shelly has a science background, Oceana has 40 full-time scientists on its staff who can, Shelly can ask a question about a problem that came up or someone asked them about the conditions of the ocean. And so she and her small team in Newport have a great resource in Oceana, administrative, scientific, and global. So we're in a very happy relationship there.
And Shelly, here's a very exciting program. It's very cool to see, and I know that the American Sailing Association's very interested in this, and I'm hoping all our viewers will tell us tell us about the Green Boaters program initiative.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like you said, we had programs for kind of competitive racing, youth, but we didn't have anything for the recreational boater. So we developed this green boating guide to empower boaters to make a difference on the water as individuals. So this green boating guide covers 26 different topics, from how to properly anchor to make sure that you're not disturbing coral reefs or seagrass beds, how to lower your carbon footprint, what toxic, non-toxic cleaners actually work on your boat, and then what do you do if you spill fuel. And so this is an example of one of our topics, black water. So what do you do with sewage on your boat? So for every topic, we try to give background information with the science why it's important to carry out the eco-smart practice. And then there's fun facts, infographics, so you can better understand the problem, and then solutions to the problem. So we tell you like the rules and regulations about what you can do with your black water, different types of marine sanitation devices to store black water. We even suggest a composting toilet if you're interested in that. And then it is a dense guide, but we also provide a top 10 checklist here. So of things that you can do right now to be environmentally responsible. And if you join to become a green boarder, you get our newsletter, and we try to provide the latest eco tips in smaller bite sizes.
I love it. I love it. Use the do more, don't anchor. Use the mooring first. Stop an invasion. Every watershed and water area has different challenges. You're talking about how Oceana, David, helps look at the regional and problems, and helps design programs that are effective. And the same thing for us boaters. I mean, I'll go to the Finger Lakes in a few weeks, hopefully, and there the pollution, the environmental issues are very different than, say, what they have, out at home in San Diego.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's very true. I mean, every body of water has its specific sea life and fish and sea mammals and so forth, and which makes it wonderful to study the ocean. If you have a science interest, it's amazing, the ecosystem of the ocean. And as you say, every place is different. But there are some general problems, and Shelly has mentioned a number. Certainly, plastics are one. Actually, there's a big issue with the oceans becoming toxic because of the amount of carbon that is coming from the atmosphere, and so that's something that we can actually help by, buying an electric car, reducing our carbon footprint. So we can all do things on land that also help the oceans.
And now you have a program, the Skippers program.
Yeah.
Yes, Shelly should talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is so our Green Boater program here. You can also what we wanted to do is not just empower individuals of what they can do on their boat, but also to build this community of people that are making a difference for their waters. So the Green Boater Initiative, you can sign up to become a green boater and potentially get one of the green boater burgees to fly on your boat. And then we give you the opportunities to take part in campaigns that are going to help protect the oceans, like plastic pollution, as David was saying. And this is, and so this is one of the issues here. So the community we have is about 15,000 members right now, and they're helping us to work on different issues. So plastic pollution is definitely a big one. As you heard in the video in the beginning, 17.6 billion pounds of plastics enter the ocean every year, and that's a lot of plastic. And I'm sure many boaters have seen these plastics floating in the water. It's kind of disheartening to see. And so what the problem comes down to is that companies are producing too much throwaway plastic. And so before I dive into some of the solutions, I want to share a couple of our plastic myths. So the first myth is that all plastics are recyclable. I'm sure many of you have seen, in this screen here, I'm sure many of you have seen those triangle, the chasing arrows, and thought, you might have seen it and thought that it was recyclable. So, it has a recyclable symbol, I'm gonna throw it in the recycle bin and it's gonna get recycled. But that's not necessarily the case. So this is a pretty complicated graph here, but that's the point. There's so many different types of plastics out there. This chart represents the resin identification code that the plastic industry created. And so each number signifies a different category of plastics. The ones here are your clear plastic bottles, like a water bottle or a soda bottle. The 2s are the milk containers, milk jugs, or detergent bottles. A 3 is PVC piping or vinyl flooring. 4s are the thinner plastics, like your plastic bags or food wrappers. 5 are the tougher plastics, like your bottle caps or maybe like a yogurt container. 6s are polystyrene or that styrofoam takeout container or egg tray material. And then the 7s are the catch-all. That is the other category. So any plastic that doesn't fit into the others goes into number 7. Mm-hmm. And so what you can see on the right-hand side is that, the 4, 6, and 7 are rarely or not recyclable at all. The 3s and 5s are often not recyclable. And then the 1s and 2s are recyclable, but the problem is that they're not recycled to any significant amount, which leads to the second myth, that is recycling is an effective solution to the plastic pollution crisis. It's not an effective solution. As you see here, there are so many different types of plastics that are not recyclable. In the video you heard, if they're, different plastics can contaminate the waste stream, and when plastics are recycled, they're actually downcycled to something that's of lesser value. So plastic recycling is just not the solution. And, out of all the plastic waste ever produced, only 9% has been recycled, which is a tiny number. And without immediate change, the total amount of plastic waste generated is expected to double by 2025. So I know boaters, many are probably doing their part by using reusable items like your water bottle or your bag, utensils or takeout containers. But throwaway plastics are still being made in massive quantities. And so what can you do as a boater to help solve this huge crisis? So we need to, stop plastic from entering the oceans. We must reduce the amount of throwaway plastic that's being created or produced. So we need companies to dramatically reduce the amount of plastic that they're providing and selling us. And so Oceana is working and campaigning to reduce the production of throwaway plastics. So I'm going to describe a couple different ways about how you can get involved as a boater. The first way is policies like plastic bans can be a very helpful way to stop plastic pollution. Many counties and cities are starting to ban certain types of plastic. And the focus of these bans is generally around things that you can find in the environment, like here, plastic bags, utensils, straws, takeout containers. This past spring, New York State passed a ban on styrofoam for takeout containers and packaging, which is really exciting. So while we have some momentum, maybe your communities also has plastic bag bans, but while we have some momentum on a local level, we really need to put our foot on the accelerator. So Oceana is calling on the US government to pass legislation to help reduce ocean plastic pollution. There's the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act, which is the first of its kind bill that was introduced to Congress, and it phases out certain types of plastics and also shifts the burden on the companies that produce those plastics. And so far, if you go to the next slide, you can see the petition. More than 2,500 boaters have already signed this petition telling Congress or asking Congress to support this bill. And we're continuing to get support from the boating community on this. So if you become a green boater,
a lot of the boats that I sail on in the racing world, the bigger boats, we've shifted, and we now just like the sailors, the clean regattas, we're promoting having your own water bottle and not the ubiquitous throwaway plastic bottle, but even in the
Mhm.
big boats, even in longer races, we'll just each individually have our own drinking device and then just refill it from large containers. So whereas X years ago, you'd go on a boat and it'd just be full of cases of 12 ounce or 16 ounce drinking water. Now everybody has one. There's one per crew, and that reduces the demand in a small way.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. And then another solution is to get companies to offer us plastic-free choices. So, if you're provisioning your boat, you may go to the grocery store and notice that you don't have any options for something that's plastic-free. So if you're, buying fruit, it might be in a plastic container. If you're buying bread or rice, plastic bags. If you're buying soap, it's in a plastic bottle. You're just not even given that option. So we're trying to work with companies to have them provide plastic-free choices for us. And another example of where you may not be able to, we don't have a plastic-free choice is, packaging when we're ordering things online. And so every day, thousands of products on Amazon are shipped with plastic wrapping and those cushioning pillows, and it's unnecessary. And so an Oceana supporter, Nicola Delman, she started a change.org petition right here, calling on Amazon to offer customers a plastic-free packaging choice. And Oceana and our Following Ocean activists have been supporting this effort. And this petition has almost 500,000 signatures. So we want Amazon to give us this plastic-free choice. And you can expect to hear more from Oceana about this topic very soon.
How do we get to that petition and sign it?
So if you go to change.org/plastic-free choice, that will bring you right to the petition page.
Cool.
And then I think finally, in addition to getting policies and having companies provide plastic-free choices, is setting up plastic-free zones. So you might see plastic-free areas in grocery stores or a plastic-free restaurant. And I think this is where a boater can be a real advocate. You can go to your, maybe your sailing center, yacht club, maybe your favorite local watering hole, and start small, getting them to eliminate single-use plastic straws and then keep increasing. So I think boaters can be real advocates for implementing some of these plastic-free zones.
All right, David, and then now we're to the launch of the new Skippers program.
Yeah, we have a wonderful new Skippers program where we are highlighting real leaders in communities who are willing to take on more responsibility for recruiting others. And we have, I think, Shelly, is it a dozen we have here, or 8?
We have 8, yeah.
We have 8 so far, yeah. And looking for more, so maybe there's some candidates online tonight we could recruit. What are the qualifications, Shelly?
Well, these are all leaders, like you said, in their community. They all bring different backgrounds to the table. We have an editor for a sailing magazine, someone who's kind of an expert in social media. But what's great about these people is that they're passionate about the environment and they're well connected to their sailing community. So they're helping, when these petitions come up, they're going to their community and saying, we need support for this. Or if, they're connected to a yacht club, they're helping them become Queen Regattas. So these are real leaders across the U.S. that are helping support our programs and campaigns.
That's
wonderful.
Fantastic. What do how do they reach out to you and apply for the job?
So we actually, if you go to our website, our About Us page, there's a Skippers page and you can see all their profiles, and then you can apply right there. There's a little button to apply. Or you can just contact us as well.
Nice.
Yeah, we're very excited about this program. It's a great group of people, very passionate and dedicated.
Now, Oceana is all around the world. What kind of impact? Well, you did mention some of the international stuff, so the World Youth Championship, et cetera, but how often do you get outside the confines of the United States with the programs?
Well, certainly Oceana does, every day of the year, because it has offices in the Philippines and Peru and Chile and Europe and many other places around the world. Belize was mentioned. So Oceana, the mothership, if you will, is always active around the world, and we're hoping that Sailors for the Sea will catch on, as it actually already has in Portugal and Japan. We have branches of Sailors for the Sea which are active there.
We could have to have a multilingual staff helping Shelly out to deal with the skippers from different countries. That would be great.
Definitely. Yep, if you want to become a green boater, you can sign up right here, and then you'll be a part of our newsletter. So when petitions like this come up, you'll get action alerts, and then we also send those cool eco-smart boating tips your way.
Come on, guys, let's all get involved. We can all be a green boater, and we can share this message too, because we can set the example and be influencers in our community. That's the cool thing. And to have organizations like Sailors for the Sea and people like David and Shelly and larger organizations like Oceana, that it's not doom and gloom that we saw in the intro video. We can affect that. And we can not just stand back and watch it all happen, but we can affect change. It'll start locally, things happen globally, right?
Hear, hear, Peter.
Start on your boat, how about? That's a good way to go. That's fantastic. Great presentation, and super cool to see what Sailors for the Sea has done and how it's evolved over the years and continued to remain, active and changing with the times and with more horsepower than ever, thanks to the involvement of Oceana. Okay, so we're going to dive into some questions that have been asked, and the question and answer room is still open if anybody wants to ask some more. I am looking at them for the first time. Here we go. Mark asks, it seems to me that the manufacturers of almost everything must be encouraged to seek biodegradable containers for their products. I'd suggest that the public in general will be happy to pay for the additional cost incurred. Comments?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think the one concern about biodegradable products is that sometimes they still act like plastics. So a lot of people think when they see the composting sign on like a plastic product that you can just throw it in the landfill and it's going to disappear. But it actually needs to go to an industrial composter. So you just need to be really careful about what types of products you're going to buy, because sometimes it will act like plastic, unfortunately. But I agree. I think we've seen that people will pay more for products that are good for the environment.
But as you pointed out in the chart of all the fancy recyclable triangles and the 7 or however many types of plastic, it is quite confusing, and maybe intentionally so by the plastic industry. But in some cases you sort of have to have a PhD like you, Shelly, to even know if you're doing the right thing with your purchases. So that's why it's great to have programs and sort of structure that organizations like yourself provide to us. So, because it's not always a simple answer out there.
Definitely.
The Evelyn asked, what happens to the plastic that you pick up in the plastic sport fishing competition? Some of it can be pretty gross. Is it accepted by waste management facilities, or just have to be cleaned up first?
That's a great question. I'd have to touch base with Eastport Yacht Club to see what they actually did. But I think for it to be recycled, it needs to be clean plastic. So you would have to clean it if you wanted to recycle it, unfortunately.
And then you talked about, one of the steps globally that has to happen is the political lobbying. And somebody dove into the presidential campaign. So I'm going to stay non-denominational here, but it was kind of a cool idea. David suggests, hey, as the ASA or Sailors for the Sea thought about using its group power to perhaps create a petition to the presidential campaigns to, make a platform on plastic reduction. I haven't heard about that yet, but it's a cool idea. The Mark Stella asked, shortly before the COVID-19 hit the headlines, I read about a major cruise line starting to use containers made of paper, similar to how milk is sold. Are you aware if this is a true story?
I've not come across that story. I'll have to look it up.
But you know, and I don't know about it either, although I have an association with a small cruise line where we've been asked to make presentations about ocean health aboard the cruise ship. So what I think this is customer pressure, and I think that is extremely effective in every domain, whether it's a supermarket or a cruise line. You know, speak up, let your views be known, and by what you buy and what you tell, what you say in the comments book as you leave the cruise ship or wherever you are.
Yeah, in fact, I'm the team I'm sailing with up here in Michigan. The owner of the boat, the DeVos family, has a small company that makes I forget the brand. I should have brought. There's several cases in the other room. We're at the team headquarters here, but water in a box. You know, all of our waters are in, just like say, milk containers.
Yeah.
Here's a question. I don't know the answer to this. I don't know if you guys do. Any relationship to the Volvo race boat Turn the Tide on Plastics? Are you aware of that at all?
Yeah, we haven't worked with them directly. We worked with the stopover in Newport. They were a clean regatta, a platinum level, the highest level of clean regatta. So at the stopover in Newport, we worked with the Volvo Ocean Race on that front.
And Vicky asks, well, give us some examples of what programs and what's being done to convince manufacturers and companies to reduce plastic in their packaging.
Well, so Oceana has got this campaign on plastics, and it's looking for companies that will be willing to take a lead and reduce their plastic impact and create good alternatives to plastic, whether in their packaging or in other uses. And so we're in the process of identifying some very significant companies to be the leaders in this way, and I believe we're close to it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm going to share this the screen again for the website. You've got the green voter link there on the screen, and the final question here is actually a statement from the president, Cindy Chavez, of the American Sailing Association, saying she's pledging to help Sailors for the Sea in any way it can, and they're going to use their social media power, which is significant if you've ever been to any of the ASA's social media sites, to help further the cause. So that's good news, and I think we all are inspired here with this program, and know that we all can do more, you know.
Well, it's great. And Peter, we appreciate so much your support and interest. And I'm very proud of our small and powerful team in Newport, led by Shelly. So it's been a great opportunity for us to present Sailors for the Sea and Oceana, and what every one of your listeners and participants can do to help.
All right. Well, many thanks. It was a dream, you know, when I first started doing these shows, and I wrote down a list of what would be great subjects and great shows. Sailors for the Sea was right there at the top, and I'm so proud that we were able to get you on, and you guys had the time, and hopefully, you know, we can do our part at the American Sailing Association and help spread the word amongst our sailing community in our little niche. But Shelly, I wish you all the fair winds and you know, great times there in Newport in the summertime. And David, I'm going to be hopefully sailing past your house pretty soon, so I can't wait to get up there to Maine. All that lobster I saw in the compost, it made me hungry.
Thanks, Peter. Do come visit.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. It's been a great show. Very impressed with what Sailors for the Sea has done, and let's all help David and Shelly and their team do much, much more. We'll see you guys out on the water.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Peter.
Fair winds.
And to everybody joining the show today, thank you very much for joining us, because this has been a special show and one that I'm proud to have brought the American Sailing Association in putting on these shows. We, one of our thoughts was, hey, let's do something when people can't get out on the water at the beginning of lockdown. And as the season has gone on and lockdown has changed in perspective, so too has sort of ASA's goals and objectives with this program. And we're really proud to be able to share this with you. So whether you're watching it live or you're watching it on tape months from now, I hope you've enjoyed it. In fact, this isn't the only show that we have done. And if you go to asa.com/webinars, I'm very, very proud of the library we put together and some great, great episodes of Inside Sailing, and in its previous incarnation, Web Wednesdays. You can get a great glimpse of the broad range of the sport, and not just one niche or the other. So we've really spanned the globe, and in this show to get involved with the environmental side of things was very, very fitting. So with that, I'm going to say so long on behalf of the American Sailing Association and all the great sailors here up in Michigan. They're looking forward to get out on the water. Until next time, wish you safe sailing. Everybody stay safe. Thanks very much for joining us. Bye, guys.